Imagine this. Before you even had a name, before your first breath, before the world could touch you, something was already written inside you. Not in ink, not on paper, but in energy. A spiritual code, encrypted into your very existence. A map, a memory, a divine blueprint only your soul could understand. Now imagine that somewhere along the way, that code was erased. Not violently, not all at once. Slowly, quietly, subtly, through distractions, through pain, through a world designed to keep you numb. You grew up believing you were just like everyone else. You laughed, you cried, you lived, but something never quite made sense. Because deep inside, you always felt like something was missing. And not just missing, forgotten. Have you ever felt like you were different but couldn't explain why? Like no matter what you achieved, it still wasn't enough. Like every relationship, every job, every step forward still left you with a strange emptiness, a longing for something you couldn't name. Maybe you've been waking up in the middle of the night with your heart racing for no reason. Maybe you've been seeing repeating numbers, 1111, 333, and trying to tell yourself it's just coincidence. Maybe you've walked through life feeling invisible, watching people around you connect, belong, move forward, while you stay stuck. But what if I told you that none of this is by accident? What if there is a reason you've always felt out of place, like this world was never truly yours? What if your life, your pain, your questions were all symptoms of something sacred, something divine? What if this entire time you've been trying to remember who you really are? You see, there are people in this world who were born with something different, a spiritual frequency, a hidden assignment, a light buried so deep it scared the darkness around them. These people feel everything deeply. They see through the surface. They sense things others don't. They've been broken, abandoned, ignored, misunderstood, not because they're weak, but because they were being shaped. They are the chosen ones, and they're not chosen because they're better than anyone else. They're chosen because they carry something this world desperately needs: truth, clarity, healing. But here's the truth. No one told you. Being chosen doesn't feel good. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence, with isolation, with suffering that makes no sense. Until now. Because once you start remembering your code, once you recognize that every trial, every scar, every delay was part of a divine pattern, everything begins to shift. You no longer see yourself as broken. You see yourself as hidden, protected, preserved for a higher purpose. And that's what this video is about. Not theories, not fluff, but the moment your soul remembers what they tried to make you forget. If something inside you is stirring right now, if your heart is beating a little faster, if your eyes are stinging, if your body knows what your mind hasn't caught up to yet, then pay attention. Because nothing is random. Not you being here. Not you reading this, and definitely not what happens next. This isn't just a video, it's a doorway, and once you walk through it, there's no going back. There was once a boy named Daniel. He wasn't special in any way people could see. He wasn't louder than the others. He didn't stand out in school, but inside him, something was always different. As early as 5 years old, Daniel saw things no one else noticed. Faint lights hovering above people's heads, numbers repeating on clocks, dreams that came true days later. He once told his mother, "There's a voice that whispers to me when I'm alone." She smiled, called it imagination, and told him not to scare himself. But it wasn't his imagination. It was his divine code trying to break through. It was the early echo of a spiritual awakening, the kind of calling that has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with remembering who you were before the world told you to forget. But as he grew older, the lights faded, the whispers turned into static. The dreams stopped, not because they weren't real, but because he was taught to stop believing in them. Teachers said, "Focus on the real world." Friends laughed when he shared what he saw, and somewhere between growing up and trying to fit in, that part of him, the hidden memory, the sacred connection, was slowly overwritten by noise. Daniel started to feel something shift. An invisible fog settled in his chest. A hollow space inside him widened year after year. He couldn't describe it, not clearly, but it felt like he was always searching for something that everyone else seemed to have forgotten even existed. It was more than sadness. It was a kind of spiritual silence, like a room that had once been filled with music, now left echoing in stillness. That's the thing about the soul purpose. It doesn't shout. It waits. It lingers behind the curtains of logic and routine. It calls you through discontent, through a strange discomfort in the middle of joy, through that haunting feeling that something's off even when everything looks fine. Daniel became quiet. He stopped sharing, but inside, he was unraveling. The world had told him to be normal, and in doing so, it had pushed him further from the frequency he was born to carry. If you've ever felt that same ache, that same distance from yourself, I want you to type yes in the comments right now. Not for me, but for you, to mark this moment as the first step back toward your code. That feeling of being disconnected from God, of walking through life like a ghost inside your own body, that isn't who you are. It's who the world trained you to be. This is what no one tells you. The sadness, the anxiety, the numbness. It's not always trauma. Sometimes it's a response to spiritual misalignment, a signal from the deepest part of you saying, "Wake up, we've gone too far off course." What Daniel experienced is something countless others carry in silence, a spiritual identity crisis, a quiet war between who we truly are and who we were told to become, and what they call normal. That pattern of waking up, working, performing, pretending, distracting yourself until it's time to sleep again. That was never the plan. That was part of the system designed to erase the code, a world that celebrates surface and silences soul. But what if everything that feels wrong in your life is actually the echo of something sacred trying to return? What if the pain isn't punishment, but preparation? Because deep within you, buried under all the noise, is a memory, an original frequency that's been waiting to reactivate. And maybe, just maybe, the reason you're still watching this, the reason your chest feels heavy, and your heart knows this isn't just a story, is because that memory is starting to rise again. When Daniel looked into the mirror that morning, something was off, terribly off. It wasn't his face that unsettled him. It was the silence behind his eyes, a kind of stillness that didn't feel like peace. It felt like absence. Something had been taken from him. Not a memory he could name, not an event he could trace, but something deeper. The kind of emptiness that doesn't come from what you've lost, but from what was stolen before you even knew it was yours. That morning was different. He didn't just feel tired, he felt erased. You see, this is what no one tells you. Your spiritual code, the one written into your soul before you entered this world, was never truly lost. It was systematically dismantled. From the moment you were born, layers of belief began to wrap around you. Not beliefs you chose, but beliefs you inherited. Ideas passed down from generations who also had their codes erased. Daniel grew up in a house filled with love, but also fear. Fear of being different, fear of questioning, fear of seeing too much. The world taught him to fear what he was born to remember. That's how the system works. It doesn't need chains or cages. It uses limiting beliefs. It whispers, "You're not enough." It preaches, "Stay in line." It rewards silence and punishes intuition. By the time we reach adulthood, most of us have internalized these messages so deeply, we don't even question them. We just accept that our lives are supposed to feel this heavy, that God is distant, that purpose is for other people, that spiritual experiences are weird, dangerous, or imaginary, and somewhere along the way, the spiritual thief finishes his work, not by stealing your soul, but by convincing you it was never there to begin with. And so the divine mission begins to fade. The signs show up, dreams, déjà vu, flashes of knowing, but we dismiss them. The symbols appear, feathers in strange places, numbers repeating, the sense that someone is watching, but we ignore them. Because by then, the voice of doubt has grown louder than the voice of truth. That's what happened to Daniel. He started to forget the lights he once saw. He stopped writing down his dreams. He stopped trusting the warmth that would rise in his chest when he prayed. Until that morning, until that mirror, until he saw not who he was, but who he used to be. A boy with fire in his eyes and stars in his soul. And in that moment, the fragments began to speak. Because the code doesn't disappear. It fractures. It breaks into pieces, scattered through your life like clues in a divine scavenger hunt. Every moment of discomfort, every time your spirit ached and you didn't know why, every time you looked at the sky and felt a name on your lips that you didn't recognize, that was the code trying to return. That was the memory refusing to stay buried. That was the divine blueprint breaking protocol and leaking through the cracks. Daniel wasn't crazy. He was waking up. And maybe, so are you. What was the sign you ignored? The dream you laughed off? The inner voice you silenced? Type it in the comments. Not for views, not for attention, for confirmation, because your soul already knows. And the moment you put it into words, something activates. Because if they erased your memory, you must become the one who remembers. If they buried your symbols, you must become the one who decodes. And if they took your voice, you must become the echo. This is the part where everything begins to shift. Not because of me, not because of this video, but because something ancient inside you has been waiting for this exact moment to start speaking again. And it is. Can you hear it? The rhythm is returning, the static is clearing, and the divine frequency that once belonged to you is starting to rise. Even after everything they did to silence it, after the years of noise, of confusion, of shame, of hiding, your code never died. It didn't vanish. It simply went to sleep. But the thing about sacred codes, about divine assignments, about the energy written into your soul before this lifetime, is that it cannot be destroyed. And now, right now, it's starting to wake up. Maybe you've felt it already. A tension in your chest when you hear certain words. Goosebumps when you meet someone for the first time and somehow know you've crossed paths before. Tears rising unexpectedly when you're alone, quiet, and something inside starts speaking without words. This isn't random. This isn't coincidence. This is spiritual code activation. This is the beginning of the return, a remembrance of soul. When people talk about a spiritual awakening, they often think of light and peace. But the truth is, it starts with pressure, with disruption, with things falling apart so that something deeper can rise. That's the journey you're entering now. And whether you realize it or not, your spirit has already begun to rearrange everything that no longer fits the truth of who you really are. This is your journey of reconnection, and it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in steps. The first step is divine alignment. You must reconnect with the source, not the idea of God that was sold to you through fear, guilt, or control, but the presence behind everything, the intelligence behind the numbers you keep seeing, the force that never stopped trying to reach you. When you quiet your mind, when you stop performing and start listening, that connection comes back, sometimes slowly, sometimes like a flood, but it returns, and with it comes clarity. The next step is learning to identify the awakening signs. They're everywhere. Maybe you've started seeing feathers in unusual places. Maybe the number 1111 is following you. Maybe dreams are coming back to you from childhood. Symbols, places, people. These aren't coincidences. They are activation codes. Pings from the divine matrix, reminding you that you are part of something bigger. Chosen ones are marked by these signs, not because they're better, but because they're here for something different. Then comes the part no one warns you about, letting go. To rise, you have to release the pain you carry, the fear, the guilt, the relationships that drain your light, the beliefs that told you not to trust yourself. All of it must be put down. This is where most people turn back, because freedom requires honesty, and honesty requires courage. But once you begin to unshackle yourself from what was never yours to carry, your energy changes. Your perception clears, and for the first time in a long time, you begin to feel whole. That's when you reach the step that changes everything, activating your mission, that sacred thread that connects your life's patterns, your deepest pain, and your highest gifts. The Chosen One mission isn't a job, it's a frequency. It's the way you move through the world, the way your presence shifts rooms, the way your truth frees others without needing permission. Once this activates, you don't chase your path anymore. Your path begins to chase you. There was a woman once, Sarah. She carried an invisible weight for most of her life. Couldn't explain it. Just felt like something was missing, like she was always waiting for something to begin. For years she thought it was depression. But one night, after a strange dream she couldn't forget, she searched for the meaning of the number 333. That's how she found the first clue. From there, everything changed. She remembered moments from her childhood she had buried. She saw how every painful season had been preparing her, not punishing her. That weight wasn't dysfunction. It was spiritual erasure. And when she realized that, she began to rewrite her story. If any part of this is resonating with you, if your body knows this truth before your mind can explain it, then press like right now. Not for me, but to anchor this frequency. Because when you say yes to this energy, you're not just watching a video. You're stepping into remembrance. You're standing at the doorway of your real purpose, and it's been waiting a long time for you to return. Today, we walked through a truth most people will never hear in their lifetime. We uncovered the mystery you've always felt but could never name. We exposed the invisible system that slowly, silently, erased your spiritual code, the very design that once connected you directly to your soul's mission, your divine alignment, your sacred identity as a chosen one. We looked at how they did it, through fear, distraction, false beliefs, broken systems, and spiritual suppression. But we also did more than just observe the damage. We began the journey home. We remembered that the code was never truly destroyed. It wasn't erased in the way the world told you to believe. It was only hidden, waiting, humming just beneath the surface. That longing you've carried all these years, the ache in your chest, the voice in your dreams, the signs you kept ignoring. It was your spiritual code calling you back to yourself. It never gave up on you. It never stopped trying to reach you. We talked about the path of reconnection, about learning to align again with God, not through fear or dogma, but through love, presence, and sacred remembrance. We explored the signs, the patterns, the divine symbols that appear not by chance, but by design. We understood how to break the chains, how to release the heavy beliefs, relationships, and self-sabotaging stories that have held you back from your spiritual freedom. And most importantly, we touched the beginning of your mission, the purpose that was written into your being before you were ever born, the reason you are here, the reason you've always felt like an outsider in this world, the reason you've suffered more deeply, observed more sensitively, and felt more intensely than those around you. And here's the most powerful truth of all. Even if you feel like you're too far gone, too broken, too disconnected to get it all back, you're not. The code is still inside you, fully intact, fully alive. You were never forgotten, not by God, not by the universe, not by your higher self. Even in your darkest moments, your spirit has been protected. You've been preserved for something only you can do, something only your soul was coded to carry. All of this is real. The pain, the signs, the transformation. This awakening you're going through right now is not a coincidence. It's a spiritual return, a sacred remembering, a divine homecoming. That's why you were guided to this video. That's why you're still here, still watching, still breathing differently as you listen to these words. Because you're not just remembering the message, you're remembering yourself. Now I want to ask you something honest, something vulnerable. Which part of this video made you cry, or cracked something open inside you, or made you finally remember who you truly are? Was it when you realized your code was never lost? Was it when you saw yourself in Daniel or Sarah's story? Was it when you felt, even for a second, that God never left your side? Write it now in the comments. I want to read your story. I want to hear your truth. And if you're not sure what to say, write the words, "I'm ready to remember," or "The code is awakening." Just type whatever is real for you in this moment. And listen closely, because this isn't the end of your path. This is the beginning. If you've always felt different, if you've sensed you don't belong in this world the way others seem to, if you've carried a quiet ache that no one ever understood, then get ready for the next video. It's called "You Always Felt Different?" Now you'll understand why. It's the missing piece that will connect everything you felt in today's video to the core of your soul's design. Click the bell so you don't miss it. You need to hear it. And before you go, I'm going to ask you for something that's bigger than this channel, bigger than views, bigger than content. If you know someone who is walking through life silently suffering, who feels lost, disconnected, or spiritually numb, share this video with them. It might be the one moment that helps them remember, just like this moment helped you. If you felt something real here today, subscribe and join this space of awakened souls. This isn't just a channel. It's a frequency, a sanctuary for those who are rising. And now, it's your turn, your time, your moment. Go. Activate your code.